miles from there.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's
That's
awesome.
why I can work. That's why I can work here and jump over there, jump on the grader, and come back and forth.
I was about to say, how do you do all this?
Yeah.
Because I mean, I know you're in the shop working on these engines and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's do a pro. Okay, everybody, welcome to Mid America Dirt. I'm Skip, and I am super excited to be joined by Mr. Vic Hill. Vic, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good.
Let me
It's
start off
70
with this
degrees
one.
in Tennessee.
Yes, I hear you. It was here yesterday too, but now that cold spell's coming through here, so
Yeah, it'll be here Sunday.
Yeah, it'll start. It's headed your way.
Yeah, yeah.
Let me start off with this question, Vic.
Okay.
And I know everybody's want me to ask this question. Why are racing engines so expensive? What makes them so expensive?
Technology, parts, and the power that they make now. I mean, and it really doesn't matter. You know, the wide bore engine, I don't know if many people know this, but in this dirt world, we were the first ones to ever build one of those things for Scott Bloomquist. It took us 2 years to design the thing. And Scott ran them in 2006. And then it's evolved and we've evolved with it. And then, so now everyone's got the wide bore. But the cost of a wide bore compared to a standard bore spacing engine is not any different. I mean, it's really not. If you put the same quality components, the same quality crankshaft, connecting rods, pistons, lifters, all that stuff in a standard bore spacing aluminum block, the cost is no different. That's one of the misconceptions that a lot of people have out there is, oh, those wide bores are so expensive. No, everything is expensive. And, you know, since COVID, hell, they've gone up even more, but it's not us. The percentage we've gone up on our labor is 2%. The percentage that most of the parts have gone up is anywhere from 20 to 50%. So that's why the cost has just gone skyrocket. And here's the thing with the suppliers right now, whatever's going on in this country with suppliers, so they don't have to come off their prices. I mean, they're the back orders like crankshafts are hard to get. I mean, I'll order 20 crankshafts at a time from different companies, and it's just barely enough trickling in to keep up with the demand of the engines. So there's no deals on anything either. But it used to be, you know, years and years ago, you get a free crank or you get a free block or well, they're so far behind, they don't have to give you anything now because people that want them, which is, it's kind of tough, but that's the expense of the engines is not the engine builders going up 50% on any of that stuff. It's basically the cost of the parts. I mean, if we went up the same rate as the parts have gone up, these engines would be $120,000.
Yeah. So you ain't, it ain't coming to you. You ain't got a yacht out there by Bezos somewhere.
No.
Gotcha.
You guys you can see we're in here working and you know, doing all we can do. And I'm not saying it's a great living. It's fun. I've done it all my life. But as far as the price of these things, yeah, it's double what it was in 1992. It's double what a race engine was, but we're not making double the money. I promise you that.
So you and all your competitors and everybody else that's doing, are you all getting your parts, you know, from the same sources or
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean,
and you're competing for those parts, I would assume.
Well, you know, like our engine takes a different piston design than a Clements would, or maybe even Jack Cornette's or whoever. So it's the same company. We're not really competing and taking each other's parts, but that company's trying to supply to all of us. And so we put our orders in for however many and they'll work through. It isn't like we need to get, that's one of the things in one of the crankshaft companies that we ordered 20 crankshafts in June of last year. Since June, we've gotten like 1 or 2 from them. And what they've done though is and so our sport now, I'll say this, a year ago, not this December, but a year ago, December, I got 16 crankshafts in one day. Well, I know they didn't build them the day before, but I'm like, holy smoke. I mean, we don't mass produce that many engines at one time, and crankshafts are very expensive. Now I took them, but what they're doing trying to make their business function maybe more efficiently, but it kills our business is if they get they build big block crankshafts and they build LS crankshafts and they build the 4,500 crankshafts. Well, they'll have an order of 200 of big block crankshafts. Well, they'll do every one of them and not one of the other. And then they spin off into the next one, do every one of them. And that's to, in my looking at it, they don't have a grasp of how this industry works as far as the dirt world. We don't need to get 16 crankshafts in one day. We need to get 4 and then 4 and 4, something like that. And you build your engines, and that way you've got cash flow, and you go on, because you can't literally, we're not a mass producing like a GM or anything like that. These are specialty engines. So you don't just spit them out like a road car engine. So the industries are owned by some corporations that don't understand that. And that's caused a problem.
So those suppliers like that, and the people that are doing that, making that stuff, are they making it for the industry wide, and then special stuff for you guys, or is it specialty stuff
The
for
industry? Like our crankshaft would be the same. Now the bob weight or balancing be a little different, but the crankshaft itself, myself or Clements or Jack or Andy or any of those, they're the same thing. You know what I mean? So when they do get a bunch of cranks done, they're out of them pretty quick, because all of us are sitting here going, "Oh hell, we don't have any cranks," so we take all we can get, even though we don't. It makes it tough on a smaller business to keep cash flow going when you've got to pay out for 16 crankshafts, and it takes you that long to build the engines. It's tough.
So how much is a crankshaft ballpark?
4,000.
Wow.
That's a billet. It's a billet, nice piece. I don't know if I've got. Yeah, I mean, and there's some that are well, like this. You get some that are, like, I don't know if you can see that. This guy right here. Can you see that guy right there?
Yeah.
But then you can get these where they're polished, and we've done that back and forth where they're a lot shinier. I don't know if you can see that deal, the finish on it. But anyway, the cost on these things is definitely a lot, but they're not. I don't know what I was going to say right there about the damn cost of them, other than they're about $4,000 a piece, but they are very nice crankshafts.
Okay.
It's not like an old cast or a steel crankshaft. It's a billet crankshaft.
Okay. Now, Vic, kind of explain to me, like, how does the process start for you? Do you get a block and then you just start putting it together? I mean,
No.
what is the process for you?
So you get an order for an engine, and obviously we keep a lot of parts in stock, as much as we can. But let's go through the beginning. The first thing you do is you do the block. The blocks come in, and after they come in, you have to bore the block. You have to deck the block. You have to deburr the block. I mean, we do a lot of extra things to ours to make them more durable. Basically, we actually put some extra water holes in the deck that match with the cylinder head to make them just more durable. So we spend quite a bit of time on the block when we get it in. It didn't like it just comes in a box and you bring her in here and put it together.
You'd start
Then the
putting it together.
crankshafts, yeah. Then your crankshafts, same deal. They come in, and we tell the manufacturer, whoever it is, that what our bob weight is, but we check every one of them, because everyone's human and you can screw up, and we don't want that thing vibrating and knocking the crank out of it or whatever. So we balance the crank. Then you've got your connecting rods. You basically fit the bearings, the housing bore, fit the mains, fit the rods, pin fit, pin oil. I mean, there's a lot of things as this thing goes together, but you start with the block and work your way up. Now, while we're working on the block, we're back here in the back room in the cylinder head department with Dave and I doing the cylinder heads. We design our ports, and One Way does our CNC program on our port for us. But when they come in, they're not finished. It's basically a port's in this thing. There's no valve job. They're not finished milled. They're not finished honed. Even the guide clearance between the retainer and the top of the guide, all those little things like that people don't. Sometimes they don't check them, but anyway, you need to go through all those processes with a cylinder head. You get it done, put the thing together. You check valve to piston clearance. When you build the same type engine with the same camshaft, once we get our plan together, what this year's package is going to be for a 440. We still check it, but it's a lot less time, because we pretty much we know after the first one, this is That's what it is. Push rod clearance, the valve to piston clearance, the CC of the head, because we know the CC of the piston on the compression ratio, and you build it. But you're still going to have man hour wise in a new engine for us, which we've got that new machine that some of the people have seen on my Facebook. It's going to speed that up some, but we've got about 80 hours, 70 to 80 hours
Okay.
total if you count everyone that's working on this thing to get it done. Rebuilds are really they're easier because a lot of stuff's already done. Obviously it's run, so the push rod clearance, all that kind of stuff, you don't have to worry about it. And you do one of those, it's about a 35 to 40 hour for a rebuild. Total
Okay.
man hour time.
Now let me ask you this. So what's your recommended rebuild lap wise? Like how many laps do you recommend people rebuild?
Well, and that varies. That really varies.
Refreshing.
So on average, it's 1,200 laps. Okay. But I have people that have raced in the Midwest or even up north to where they're at a racetrack and they're kind of regional racers, right? So they don't lean on the engine a whole lot. They're not like at Volusia County or Bulls Gap just running the hell out of that thing all the time. And I've had them run 2,000 laps like that, just change valve springs and run them because they really don't get hammered on. But now if you're running over here at Bulls Gap or Withville or Tazewell or, Smoky Mountain, the places that really use the engine up, 1,200 laps.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the springs, you're supposed to change those, what, like is it 600 or something?
Right in the middle.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And we use a Spintron, our valve train's in control, and springs nowadays it's kind of funny, they don't lose rate as much as they did back in the old days, but they'll break. You know what I mean? And like, okay, shit, I'm done. But you get one of the things that does affect on changing the spring is if you use a titanium retainer, that spring spins all the time, right? And it wears the titanium. Well, then your installed height gets taller and taller, so your spring rate goes down, which hurts the thing staying in control, right, on the camshaft, which will bounce the valve train around, get it pissed off, and break a valve or break the spring because the installed height's changed because the retainers wore. We're working with a couple of new type retainers right now that really don't wear, that is helping us out on that. I mean, it may get to a point with the new spring and the new retainer that we can run the whole session.
Okay. I saw one of your Facebook videos, I think just recently, you were down in Florida and you were, wrenching on one down there. And you were talking about the spring. What were you talking about on that spring deal? You said there was something about that.
Oh, on when I was changing the spring?
Yeah.
I talked about a couple of things, but I think the main thing is when you take the spring off, it's got a spring cup on the bottom that fits in it locates the spring basically. And a lot of times they will stay on the spring. And if you pull that thing off, don't pay attention, put it in the box, put a new spring on, then that shim, basically the locator for the spring, maybe 60 thousandths or so. Again, it screws up the installed height so that the valve train's going to be out of control because it's designed to be around a certain point of coil bind on the spring to make everything happy.
Okay. So let me ask this. Speaking of that, you wrenched on those cars. How often do you get out there and do that? That's pretty cool to see.
I mean, I do it every year in Florida. I bounce around. I mean, I'm not there tonight, obviously, and my phone's rang about 4 times. But, I go to Eldora. I go to, a lot of races in this area and go to Florida, bounce around down there. Shit, I don't know. Probably, I would say I go to 30 a year, just different places. And then Jason, my main guy, he'll go to a few. So we just kind of bounce around. You can't be at all of them because, hell,
Right.
they race 100 times a year now. We'd never get an engine done.
I hear you. Now you race too, right? I mean, you're a racer. Tell me kind of your history. Has your family been into it for a long time, or?
No. My family didn't. Hell, none of them knew anything about racing.
Really?
My grandfather was Dr. Victor Hill. He was chief of staff in Knoxville, Tennessee. I was supposed to be a doctor. My brother was a doctor, and I saw racing on television. I didn't even know Bulls Gap was here, and I grew up in Sevierville, which is 40 minutes from here.
Wow.
But I watched stuff on TV, and when I got out of high school, I was always really good in any kind of geometry and mathematics, any of that stuff. And I messed around in high school and built engines and just kind of hot rodded around and I was kind of the jock that was a redneck. But
I
anyway,
hear you.
um, anyway, when I got out of high school, I said I don't want to go to UT, and it upset my mom and dad a little bit. But my dad said, if you think you want to do that, you just need to go get a job in one of those Cup teams in North Carolina. And that's 1982. So at that time, NASCAR was just starting to it was on its way up. And so I went over there and just hounded the hell out of Childress for about 2 weeks, and finally got my foot in the door there, met a guy named Bob Grell, and we're still friends this day, that kind of took me under his wing, and he showed me a lot. I mean, it was a fun time, but I didn't know anything, really nothing. And I want to be a race car driver too. So I was just trying to learn and study everything I could, but I happened, Bob was a cylinder head specialist, and I just happened to be pretty good at using a die grinder and understanding what we were trying to achieve and retaining what I'd learned to apply it as I've gone through my whole career, basically. So that's, like I said, that's helped in this world. And, I did the cup stuff for about 10 years and got out of it. And I actually got back in it a little bit, helping Morgan McClure up here in the early 2000s. That's where I came up with a 4,500 engine. They were
Okay.
testing, they were doing a bunch of R&D with an engine called an R99, which was a 4,500 bore spacing engine. Well, NASCAR didn't approve that thing. And I thought, man, that'd be a badass dirt engine. So Bob Miller was helping Scott, and he said, well, let's build one. I said, Bob, it'll be expensive as hell, and it'll take me a couple of years, honestly, because we literally had to design around a billet block. I mean, it was a big undertaking, but it was very successful. He won the dream. He won a ton with those things. And I bought every GM head they had. So I was the only one that could even build one for about 3 or 4 years before they made, I think Lucido made a 9-degree head, but it didn't compete with that ROX thing. And we just evolved. Edelbrock did the head for us for a little while, and now Chris at One Way, we get the head done, and just you slowly make changes through the year. But the original design of that engine, which is pretty neat, it was designed for a carburetor. The way the runners are, the way they look at the intake port, and they really do. I mean, not just because we build them, because I've run everything. You know what I mean? I've driven them and I've worked on them and worked my ass off on some different things. But they are the most, I think, from bottom to top in RPM, they're the most versatile engine out there. Not to say that any of the other ones can't win. Obviously, they do. But I'm just saying it is a really good package from if you need to haul ass and set the track record, or if it's slicker than glass and you need to be able to drive it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when did you get into actually racing, like dirt?
Oh, shit. Back in 86 or 7, I met some guys at a gas station, Chuck Thompson, Mike Thompson brothers, and their brother Timmy, basically street stocks, but they had big blocks back then, like Camaros and stuff like that. And they asked me if I wanted to drive a race car. They said, if you'll build an engine, I'll build a car. And I'm like, oh, hell yeah. So off we went. Well, on the car, like I said, I studied a lot and I read engineering books. I basically educated on a lot of things with geometry and so on and so forth. We built the car, and I really didn't know anything about setting up the spring rates and hell air, but I knew geometry on front end. So I do all this shit to this Camaro, and we went out the first year and we finished second. I'll bet you 15 times out of racing 20 to the brother. But now I've never raced before. Well, the next year we won, I think every race they had but two, then won again.
Golly.
And, like I said, I wanted to be the big NASCAR star. And so I'd worked around as Childress's, and then I went to work for Cale Yarborough, and I met a guy down there, and I did a cylinder head for a Daytona Dash car, one of the Iron Duke Pontiacs. And well, let me back up a little bit. The reason I did that is he said, if you'll do this cylinder head, you could drive my other car. I said, well, I'll do two. I'll do one for me and one for your kid. So my first pavement race, now it's funny, was Daytona in a Daytona Dash car. I'd never been anything but a street stock
Oh
and a
yeah,
dirt
yeah.
track. It was easy. It
That's
was like a
awesome.
video game. I mean, honestly, you don't turn the steering wheel much. I know the first time I practiced out there, you run 150 miles an hour, 60, and come in, and I'm like, how's it feel? I was like, hell, I don't know. And I'm on the bottom at, it bounces around a little bit, and I move to the top. It's smooth. And they said, "Do you feel loose?" I said, "I don't feel anything. I'm just holding it on the floor. I don't know." I didn't wreck, but it was. I did those. I raced about 5 or 6 races in that thing, but it seemed to blow up every time I ran it. So I moved back to dirt, and I ran Bristol in a UARA car in 2000. It was fun as shit. But and then I test drove the cars for McClure when I was working up there. That was fun too. But by the time I did the stuff at McClure's, Larry said, "Dad, you are a race car driver." I said, "Well, yeah, I am." He said, "Too bad you're too old." And back, I was 40 some years old. I'm like, kiss my ass. I'm not too old.
Yeah, no joke.
but,
joke.
but yeah.
Okay. So now you tell me before we started recording. So you Volunteer Speedway. Tell me your record at Volunteer Speedway.
So I won more races there in the supers than anyone in the history of Volunteer Speedway, and the champion. I've won more championships there, and so I knew Joe and Phyllis. They own the racetrack, and I've been friends with them through they bought it in, I think, 99 or 2000. And it was funny because there was a certain time there that Joe said, "You're stinking up my races. You need to go somewhere else and race," because I was winning all the time. And I did, but we come back and forth, but we were always good friends. And I'd go over there and help Joe. Well, Joe and Phyllis sold Volunteer to a guy, and he bankrupted. And so it shut down. Well, in about 4 years ago, Kyle Larson and Rigsby with Flo wanted to have a race there the week of Bristol, and it's springtime, and asked me my thoughts. I said, "Man, it would be a home run. It'd be great." And so we did. And I basically just leased them the track and got the concessions, and it was a success. It was really good. And then XR at that time, before all that stuff happened with him, he had a race there, and it was very successful, and he paid everybody. I mean, we had to close the gate. We parked so many cars. But what I've done with that place is kind of crawl, walk, run. But the racetrack is a super track. But some of the banking and some of the places on it was real hard to pass because it is banked and fast. So me being a racer and running the grader and doing all that, I've worked and worked on this place, and I've got it to where, it's not muddy, it's not rough, but it is fast, but you can pass on it. You can run the top, you can run the middle. That race I won this year, I mean, I started sixth, and Jimmy Owens and Hedgecock, I mean, it wasn't like slouches, and I drove by those guys and won the race in the middle. Now, it was still fast, but they were banging the top, and there's a little bit of tire management. Not that it wears the tire out, but if you run the shit out of it, it'll definitely overheat one or blister it. So, I've like I said, I don't own it, so I haven't built up the facility a lot more, but I've worked my ass off on the racetrack, so the racing is really good. Davenport won that last big race, and he said, "Man, whatever you've done to this place," he said, it's better than I've ever seen it, just to race and get it done out there wherever you want to be.
Well, if you're getting compliments from JD, you're doing something good.
That's right. That's right. And I mean, I told Randy Weaver was up for the flow race, and I was talking to him and told him my plans for the gauntlet. We're going to do that on the, we're televising it ourselves on the Thrill.tv.
Tell everybody about that. Talk about that.
Well, what I've done is we've got a flow race and we've got an outlaw race, but we've got to have a race for this racetrack to make enough money to where I can actually buy it. You know what I mean? You want it all, and you got to have the television part of it. But what I'm going to do is the Thrill.tv, which it's got a lot of different things on it. It's got how to change valve springs and all this, but we're going to televise this on that, and there'll be a phone or an app on your phone. You'll be able to download it, or you just go to the Thrill.tv and download it. So we've got 4 races. We're going to start on Tuesday. It's a 7,500 to win, 30 lap race, 800 start. Then we've got on Tuesday, that is on the 14th. The 15th is a 10,000 win, 40 laps, not a lot of laps. We're off a day. We've got a fan fest day going on. We've got a band, a bunch of stuff. Then Friday is 20,000 win, 50 lapper. So the first 3 preliminary races, Saturday's the gauntlet, 30,000 win, 60 laps. The big deal with this, they're all good paying races. If you win, whoever wins any one of these first 3 is eligible on Saturday. If they win Saturday, they get $100,000 bonus. And it's very doable. Awesome. It's not like the Arizona deal where you got to win 4 or 5. They got to win 1. They can win the first day, crash the next 2, and win the last one. And, they've made $137,000. And I
That's
think
nice.
it's, that it'll probably happen. And I structured it to where I hope it does. I want to build something big for this place. And like I said, we've got the racetrack where it's definitely racy, and the way we're, the 30 lapper, it's going to be get it on. And then the 40 lapper it's second night, but I'm not running a bunch of support classes to get the track all wore out. It'll be pretty good. Well, then you're off 50 lapper on Friday. It's a little different tire management, a little different, things there. And then by Saturday, it's 60 laps. And by Saturday, no matter what we do, it's going to be a little slicker. Now, this place, it doesn't rubber up. It gets slick, and it's going to be skimming that fence on the top, or, dive bombing to the infield. I think it's going to be a hell of a race. And we've got, JD and Gustin and Jimmy and McDowell. We've got everybody wants to come because I've structured this to where it's not competing with an outlaw race. I've worked with them to have a race the 13th of this month. It's not competing with Flo or Lucas Oil or Hunt the Front or any of those guys. And my thought process here is I have to do something to make this track generate enough money to buy it, because as successful as we've been and all the racing's been great, if I had to pay the note on a damn $3 million piece of property, which it is valuable, it's right there on the interstate, and Joe and Phyllis do want it to continue to be a racetrack. But if I had to pay a note on that, well, I'd be broke as a joke. It would be impossible. Well, I feel like with this, with the not competing with anyone and having all the major drivers there and the reputation I've got with the racetrack, I think between the television, even in Australia, everywhere, there's people calling me all over the place, and the crowd that's going to be there, I feel like the crowd that's going to be there, it's about, it's beating on $400,000 worth of money. So to pay the drivers, which you need to pay the drivers, you got to pay them. They're the movie stars. I've said that
Yeah,
for 10
right.
years. If you
100%.
don't have the movie stars, you don't have the movie. And we're the studio and then the TV. So we've got to get that all kind of going together to where we all make money. Everybody's got to make money. But it's got to change to where the drivers get paid more, so the guy that owns their car doesn't go, man, I'm not doing this stuff and losing 300 grand a year, and I'm the champion. So trying to work that direction and just open some eyes, and I hope it's successful, because I've done this a long time, and I think a lot about what the future of the sport can be if it's done correctly.
Yes, sir. 100%. Now, when is this? Just
Okay,
again,
it's
so everybody knows.
April the 14th is the beginning of it. April 14th, it's on a Tuesday. 14th, 15th, we're off on Thursday the 16th, and then the finale is the 17th and 18th. It's 5 days, 4 days of racing.
Okay, and that's Volunteer Speedway in
Yep.
Bulls Gap,
Yep.
Tennessee.
Yep. And the thrill.tv. That's where to go see it.
Thrill.tv. I'll link
Yep.
all that in the description of the video, Vic, so people can find that
If what now?
and look that up. I'll link that. I'll link the description and all that in the
Okay.
video so people can
Yeah.
see it
Yep.
and find it. And it seems like there was something else I wanted to ask you before we get off here. So you were talking about support classes. I know it's a fine line that you got to run as a track owner to make money, off that back gate or get that back gate good. What's a good support class number?
Well, one of the things on that right there, I think that's kind of with promoters. There are races I've seen that don't pay very well, and they've got 9,000 classes but what happens with that, in my opinion, a lot of times, not all the time, is the fans don't get a show worth a damn. They see every kind of damn thing out there and they get bored to death. What I'm trying to do is make something exciting where the fan wants to come see this shit. Because when fans come see it, you make money and it builds up. If you're just having 10,000 cars out here to run around and sling dirt in the air and not any fans, and then you make your money off the back gate, I don't think there's you'll still make some money, but you won't make like longevity money.
Right.
Yeah. I kind of got off track.
It's a fine line, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a fine line. So, and what I'm doing is it's by having one support class each night, is I'm making sure that the track surface stays good. So that damn premier big race, the race that the people want to see, it's on a racetrack that by God still racy and fast and get it done. It doesn't turn into something that's so slick in one lane.
You're having one support class each night?
One support class.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
And what I'm doing is I'm doing street stocks on the first night. which they don't tear, they're not hard on the track. I'm having sportsmen, which sportsmen in this area is a big class. We've had, hell, 45 of them, at one time. But we'll run them on Wednesday night after the super race. I'm not running them before. And then we're off on Thursday. So Thursday, you can work on the track all day and all that same scenario. So Friday night, I'm running street stocks, not sportsmen. So it doesn't get the track beat up as bad. And then Saturday, my longest night or my hardest night of working on the track is actually going to be Friday night to Saturday. And then we'll run the sportsman and the late models. But again, the sportsman race will be after the super race. And the way I do all of these is I will hot lap qualify them. So their time on the track isn't as much. And it just
Wow.
keeps the track in better shape. And that's what my goal is, to try to have one hell of a race, and for the racer, for the fans, and all that.
Man, Vic, you might have the key to
I hope I do.
get.
If I don't go
Yeah,
broke.
I mean hey, that's big news right there. I mean
Yeah.
that's awesome. But you're giving other classes a chance to race. You're just not piling them
Exactly.
all in.
Yep.
Yeah. What's a
Yep.
sportsman
And,
for
we've
you
got our
over there?
weekly shows and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Do
What's
I
a
know?
sportsman over there for you? Is that a 602
Okay,
or a
sportsman, what
604?
I did with that, sportsman is a crate race, basically.
Yeah.
Back in the day, golly, it's a long time ago with Joe and Phyllis, they would have crates, and the odd dang, they're here and there and everywhere, and they wouldn't have that many. And I said, and I had, where I'm in the engine business, there's so many people that raced late models or limited late models or whatever that like to build their own engine, beat their chest. I built that thing. So what we did is we basically came up with an engine package. Now it's got rules that's tight on it. And pretty simple as hell. That makes about the same power. It might make 10 more than a crate engine. Well, you can run the crate or that one. The crate gets a 50-pound weight break, same tire, same spoiler, all that stuff there. It's just two different engines. And by doing that, we have doubled the car count,
That's
because people
awesome.
like building their own engines.
Yeah. And you put more late models on the track,
Well,
which
hell,
is
and honestly,
important.
the crate engines now, if you go get a turnkey crate deal from someone, we don't build them, but I've got a guy that uses our dyno a lot. If you ask him, look, headers, carburetor, the whole shebang for a 604, hell, you got $18,000 in that thing. So, the money's, hell, you can probably build a sportsman cheaper than that.
Yeah. Yeah. So your sportsman class, yeah, that sounds awesome. And that's a good way to get, and fans want to see late models.
Yeah.
They want to
Yep.
see late models. They do.
Yep.
Yep. I do. I know over here you can, I say this all the time, you throw a rock and hit a B mod over here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's just, we need more late models, and we need more guys to be able to afford to be able to get into and they think they can't afford to get into a late model. A lot of those mod guys, but from everybody I've
That's
talked to on
another
this
thing too.
podcast.
See, on the sportsman class, non-adjustable shock, straight up spring. We did a lot of things to where if you can have the highest dollar crate in the world and you just take some of that stuff off of it and you come race, it's cheaper, because those guys don't race for a hell of a lot of money. I mean, it's 1,000 win. So you got to make it to where they don't spend 70 grand on a car.
Yeah. Yeah, no joke. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, Vic, I've had you on here for quite a while. I know you've probably got a lot of stuff going on, probably people needing to talk to you. So I'm
Got a little
gonna
bit.
let you.
My phone's blown up 2 or 3 times, but they got about an hour before they hit the track, so I'll call them
Okay, I
back.
know. So I need to probably let you go. Is there anybody you want to thank or shout out before I let you go?
Man, I've got so many people. My whole crew here. Jason and Daryl. I'll forget somebody if I go through it. Dave, my wife back there, that makes this whole team happen. You've heard me talk about teams. I've been on race teams that are really good, and I've got a really good team here. Now, obviously thank all of them, because it lets me be able to do the other things I can do to help this business. And then, just all our manufacturers that work with us. I'm not going to name them all, but we've got a good relationship with all of them, and they bust their butt pretty much as they can for us. And then, my race car, hell, I don't race enough, but I got Greg Estes. I mean, that guy's sponsored me forever. He's a good friend too. And, I don't know, I'll probably forget somebody, but anyway, it's, I'll tell you, for me, this whole sport right here is fun as hell. To me, it is like NASCAR in the 80s. It really is. Because there's rules, but there's not that much control. And it's definitely, you can be innovative. And I love the sport.
That's awesome. Same
Yep.
here. Same here. Well, Mr. Hill, thank you
Yep.
very much for coming on
All right.
here. I
All
really
right. Thanks,
appreciate
man.
it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
See you.
All right. See you, bud.